call to order the December 10, 2024 meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Town of White Lake, and I would ask first of all that you bow your heads for our invocation. Dear Lord, we wish to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to gather here this evening to discuss the business of our town. We would ask that you be with us and guide us and direct us as we attempt to do your will and as we try to do those things that are in the best interest of the citizens of this town. These things we ask in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, at this time, we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask Commissioner Womble, if he would, to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, all right, folks, the first item on the agenda and item number one is approval of these consent agenda items that are contained in 1A through 1E. Are there any questions for staff in regard to any of those items?
On the water releases, it looks like it's really low. Just a quick question. I had a friend of mine show me he's got an app. And he can tell when his water usage is at his house is up and running. Do we have any type of way of bringing that technology on board? You know, we got so many second homes and somebody living out of town. And
yes, sir. We currently have about half of our water meters, for lack of a better term, that are read digitally. Now we're working on improving that number. There's been a couple of obstacles that get in the way of that for one reason or another, but we do have some meters here and they are a tremendous asset.
And I think people pay for that, so it might be another income revenue.
Sure.
We
can certainly look into it.
We've been working towards that because we're having so many folks that don't live here year round. Obviously, they, they're not here and they don't know if they're developing a leak. So we're trying to work towards and have been for some time getting something where we get alerts when it's an unusual amount of usage so that we can help folks with that.
So if I'm not mistaken, the 50% or so that are online, they check those every morning for high consumption.
I didn't know the individual, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, we are working on that. And it had some good results from what we got in place now. Okay, any other questions in regard to any of the items on the consent agenda? If not, I would entertain a motion that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Item number 2, administrative matters. I would ask our town administrator to present the items in section A on the project updates, and my understanding is in addition to the updates in items 1 and 2, we also have an update on some matters dealing with our multi-use plan. So Sean, if you would take that, please.
Yes, sir. For the first project update, the White Lake Water Management Project update, it's up here on the screen. I would also remind folks that it is online at whitelakewatch.com and also the town's website, whitelakenc.org. Dr. Lawrenson in her report for December 2024 takes a look at White Lake pH trends over the course of the last 7 years, that time frame being 2017 to 2024. And there is a graph that's at the top of the report that is a dot graph showing those dots represent the pH that's recorded for each month in that time frame, the time frame being the years aforementioned. But she has a couple of points at the bottom of I should say beneath the graph there that indicate the blue arrow on the bottom left-hand corner of the graph denotes the rainfall pH, which she notes has increased substantially in the past 40 years and continues to increase in the region. And the red arrow at the top of the graph on the top left-hand corner indicates the pH level at or above, which in her indication, lake waters are considered impaired or unhealthy. So for the third note, she points out that White Lake pH can increase quickly and remain high during periods of high phytoplankton productivity, which she calls in layman's terms blooms. And there's some information in the fine print, if you will, underneath the third bullet point that talks about the 2017 cyanobacterial bloom that persisted over the winter, and the pH started higher in 2018 and quickly moved into that impaired region noted in the 3 bullet points in the early May 2018 time period, which of course is when the alum treatment was conducted to reduce nutrients, phytoplankton, and pH. She does mention that since the treatment, long duration blooms have not occurred, listing that there's only briefly been 4 times in the early spring and again in the summer of 2021, the summer of 2022, and the summer of 2023, where pH levels were recorded above an 8. As you can see in the chart there, during the 2018 time period, it was north 9, in fact, just below what looks like to be a 10 on the chart there. And then at the bottom of the report, she points out that the highest pH seen in 2024 was a 7. In fact, if you look at the dot plot chart, there's only 3 time periods throughout the year of 2024 where it was at a 7, the other time periods being below a 7. If there are no questions, Mayor, that concludes the lake management project update for this month.
Go ahead with 2 and 3.
For the White Lake AIA project update, the DEQ grant that was awarded to the town for our asset and inventory project. The update this month is that with the engineer and with staff, we continue to develop our hydraulic model. This model will be completed, or is on pace, on schedule to be completed at the end of January, which would set us up for a risk workshop with staff about town asset and inventory of our water system risk areas in February, and then a CIP capital improvement plan workshop with the board in March of 2025, and then a final asset management plan, including that capital improvement plan in Q3 of 2025. So roughly sometime midsummer, late summer. And the other update there is that the GIS data for the water system is online, and staff will go through training on how to utilize that GIS information in January of 2025. If there are no questions, Mayor, that concludes the White Lake Water AIA project update for this month.
All right, now I think you have something to address on the multi-use path.
Yes, sir. For the multi-use path, this one has not been one we've mentioned the past several months, but I wanted to come back to this and just alert the board that the multi-use path project remains, or I should say the multi-use path redesign project remains on schedule. We are working with NC State landscape architect team through a grant received through the core program, the Creating Outdoor Recreations Economy program that we took part in. And in fact, I received word about an hour ago that we're trying to schedule a meeting with NC State on December 19th to continue that project. But the idea of the project is to complete the path around the lake. So right now we have a completed portion of the path that goes to the marina. And then there's some design work that's been done from the marina to the Scotchman. But in working on grant applications over the past 2 to 3 years, that is not deemed as a competitive grant application due to the cost of the project, primarily because of the boardwalk associated with the project in the wetlands area. So the idea, based on feedback that was received during the grant, several grant processes that we went through, the idea is to complete the path and then go back to the drawing board for a grant program that would not just extend the path, but complete the path around the lake. And again, that the next meeting with NC State's landscape architect team, it looks like it'll be on December 19th. If there are no questions, that concludes the multi-use path update.
And item B is our fiscal year audit presentation, and we've come a long ways in a year's period of time. I'm going to recognize Ryan Scott, if you will, with Thompson, Scott, Price, and Adams, to step forward and present us with our audit.
Well, thank y'all again. Again, third time was a charm. This is our third audit presentation. I don't know if I've ever done that in 30 years of doing these things. So glad to have done it, and hope we don't ever get to do it again. One and done, I guess. You do have the bound copies, and also we've got the audit presentation with the quick version of everything. Please feel free to contact me, interrupt me tonight, or go into a little bit more depth on anything, or stop by the office, give me a call, email me. Glad to go over anything you got. We're gonna flip to page 1 of the presentation. That is the auditor's report. I would suggest that sometimes you're taking a look at this, just reading and seeing what it says and what we really do in an audit. But I forgot to do the most important thing is thank Mary Jo, Amber, John, and Tina for everything they did during the whole year on all 3 engagements. Always ready to give us stuff, probably gave us stuff 2 or 3 times and didn't say anything too aggravating to us. But again, we thank y'all for what y'all have done as the governing body and getting people in places to help get things done. Again, we're here to present the audit, which is preparing or providing an opinion on your financial statements. That opinion is unmodified. It's the highest opinion that we render in such an engagement, which means we cannot have to modify any of the information presented. What we gave as far as adjustments were reviewed and approved by management, so therefore everything in the financial statements are within materially correct amounts. And again, it is reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance. We're going to keep flipping over to page 5, which is a summary of the financial key points of your audit. It's only reflects the general fund and the water fund. It doesn't go into this capital projects or special revenue funds that go on during the year, which can vary as you get into the different stages of those grants. Cash in the general fund was $1,938,000, slight increase over last year's $1.8 million. Restricted cash held the same, which is pretty much POWL money and some money saved for public safety. The revenues for the year were $2.5 million compared to $2,328,000 last year. $25,000 of that increase was property tax revenue that increased. Also, some golden leaf money that came in as far as your volunteer fire department grants that received some money. The ARPA money is not reflected in any of that. It's going to be reflected in the next line, the total expenditure of $2,335,000. Up slightly over last year, but there were about $245,000 in revenue replacement money that we decreased the expenditures as we try to present that ARPA money against those expenses that are being used as revenue replacement. For the year, you did end up with a surplus of $213,000, pretty much what it was last year. Do keep in mind that without that ARPA revenue replacement, you would have had a deficit of about $30,000. Looking back at what fund balance is, it did grow, as I mentioned, due to that surplus. It's $2,300,000 compared to almost $2.1 million last year. The designations are pretty much the same as they have been over last year. You do have available for appropriation around $690,000. That's about 54%. The state doesn't like us to say what the minimum is. It could be around 32%. You are compared to other municipalities of your budget size. Used to be population, but it's more on where your budget is, and y'all are within those other municipalities when they look at your total budget expenditures. Getting into water and sewer fund, your cash did increase to $4.3 million. Restricted cash did fall a little bit. There was about $100,000 and some last year. It's grant money that hadn't been spent, so it's restricted until you spend it for those designated purposes. Revenues for the year were up to $2,318,000 compared to $2,030,000 the year before. That's some service revenue that had increased. Expenditures up to $1.7 million. You did end year in a surplus of $600,000. And compare that to what you did in your budget, you were also having a $445,000 surplus when you compared the actual budgeted revenue to budget expenditures. So me and y'all both are keeping general fund and water fund positive this year. Your ending fund balance in the water fund is $8.4 million. 3.8 of that is available for appropriations. The bottom section of this is just looking at a summary of your ad valorem tax collections. The actual tax base grew by $1.4 million, which is very good to see. Collection rates are holding around 97%. So it means y'all will do everything to get the people to pay their taxes. That's everybody Very good, we know. Flipping the page. These are auditor communications, it's pretty much an abbreviated version of the audit report. Again, I'm just looking on some of the high points, and we've expressed an opinion on the financial statements. We are providing reasonable assurance, not absolute, because we're not looking at every transaction. We're pulling samples, with the gain and understanding of internal control, assess our risk, and then plan our procedures accordingly. We evaluate your accounting policies, we have as we have in the past, everything are appropriate and within reason. We deal with management, Sean and Mary Jo and Amber during our engagement, discuss issues, make adjustments, and we move forward. Had no disagreements during that process, and as I mentioned earlier, adjustments we had posted were accepted. Mary Jo did a great job, reduced the amount of government that we've done in the past. It's just been a pleasure this year, so we thank y'all for getting that happen. Adoption of accounting policies, none this year, no significant accounting estimates do discuss, they're all relevant for the account they're related to. Significant disclosures of accounting policies, if you want to go through your bound audit copy, it's on page 22, that just discusses everything as part of what y'all do and how you account for certain transactions and representations of accounts. Again, no disagreements, no difficulties, everything worked out smoothly. On page 3, other issues or findings, we do have segregation duties that we've had in the past. I know with Mary Jo, they are working to kind of reduce that. Hopefully next year we will not have that finding. There's also in the very last section, starting on page 15, for the financial indicator, we discussed in the past being new local government commission required us to fill in a bunch of financial information and to submit the offer for their approval, and it spits out these financial indicators. If there's anything that's inked on the subsequent pages to follow, that means we have to respond back to the local commission within 60 days. There are nothing to highlight this year, so it can get y'all vote on everything that's been done. Again, on that first chart shows what your fund balance is. It shows it at 83%. I factor out what how big it is, and I'm a little bit more conservative on my fund balances than what they are. So it did drop 3% from the 86% last year. So whether they measure or I measure, it's still pretty strong fund balance. The other chart that they look at on page 17 are elevation of quick ratio, where they compare your current liabilities to your current assets. It did jump a little bit this year. So again, as far as the LTC is concerned, the general fund and municipal fund are fairly stable. Any questions on that quick run down over there? And I appreciate y'all letting me come back in that office, did a great job. And I told the audit committee, I'm so glad he did that, or it may be another 6 months, but we got 2 or 3 of them, so it worked out great. Thank y'all.
I'm just delighted we're caught up with our audits and we're on time with everything now. Everything's in good shape. And we've communicated that to LGC, and they came down. I think you're aware of it. They came down and met with us some, had a good meeting with them, and when we let them know our current status, they were very complimentary of where we're at. So I think we've had good communication with them, and they seem to be very pleased at where we're at right now.
Y'all are a rare case in their eyes.
That's what they told us. and we were glad to hear it. It's always good to hear.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. All right. At this time, I would entertain a motion under item B to accept the fiscal year 2023-24 audit as presented.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. And just let me make one other brief comment on that. We are current with all of our audits now. Mary Jo is a CPA. She's done an excellent job at communicating with Brian and them. She and Amber have worked well together and really We want to thank y'all for everything y'all have done with this. Feel like we're in good financial shape at this point, and that's very important. So again, thank you for all your efforts. Items, the rest of the administrative items, Sean, if you will go through those, please.
Yes, sir. For item number C, the storm overtime approval for exempt employees, tropical Cyclone 8. This is the first, well, maybe it was the second. If you recall, there were several storms that were kind of back to back. That did result in the town having to do various tasks with responding to those events. This is tropical Cyclone 8. This is for reimbursing Kevin Taylor 12.98 hours of overtime, Dale Brennan 11.48 hours of overtime, and myself, Sean Martin, 10.98 hours of overtime. Total compensation for all three employees is $1,516.27. And staff is recommending council approve the storm pay to be paid out on the next payroll cycle.
All right. Thanks, sir.
You put mine in Jackson there.
Can we get a little bit for everybody?
That's right. Yeah, sure.
This is the one.
Very great fiscal statement.
This is, let's wait till the next one. This is not the one we're getting reimbursed on.
That's correct.
All right. So on the storm overtime approval for item C, I'd entertain a motion that be approved as presented.
So moved.
Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Sean, if you'll take item D.
Item D is for Hurricane / Tropical Storm Helene. This is a similar type event where town employees responded after hours to disaster recovery efforts, although this one is different because this is Dale Brennan and Kevin Taylor responding to some of the needs out west or I should say the western part of the state. And as a result, they were assigned specific mission numbers and they did volunteer to go. But these are expenses that will be reimbursed to the town to compensate their time while they were responding to these efforts. So you'll see 164 hours for Kevin Taylor, and you will see 109 hours for Dale Brennan. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank them both for being willing to go and serve. And I've heard a lot of good things from colleagues out on the western part of the state. And I think that y'all were a vital effort to their recovery efforts. So I just want to say from a town position, a town staff position, thank you for your service to help in making this state whole again. If there are no questions, staff would ask the board approve the recommendation as presented so that finance staff could seek reimbursement for the state for not just the overtime related expenses, but all expenses incurred as of staff responding to that storm.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Item E.
Like sign. Let me say one other thing briefly on that. You know, and I think this is a really important thing. I talked with Kevin, talked with Dale when this came up, and y'all are probably aware of it already, but we weren't pushing them to go. Extremely proud that they did that. But like so many people across the state, they knew with what they do that folks were facing a very difficult time, and they were ready to go. They were right at the front, and we're awfully proud of y'all for doing that. We really are. And I know I've heard from other folks too on how much it's been appreciated in the western part of the state. It just really speaks well for our town. And I thank you very much. You'll convey that today also. Okay. Next is item E on the WithersRavenel Stormwater Ordinance proposal.
Yes, sir. This is item E as mentioned for the Stormwater Ordinance proposal from WithersRavenel, and this is being executed as a task in the on-call engineering summary that was done last year. Council selected 3 engineering firms to be on call, and under Davis Mini Brooks Act, this is an allowable expense up to a certain point, which of course this does fall under. this effort is one that, in my opinion, as town administrator, has been needed for some time to help push our stormwater ordinance over the finish line. We've done a considerable amount of work in things like 205J grants and stormwater plans for White Lake, a portion of White Lake Drive. And it's been at the top of, I think, council's priority list, particularly as it relates to managing nutrients into White Lake. And this ordinance, if adopted for the plan proposal, will work through the planning board and really for task, project management, which is really admin related tasks, monthly updates, checking calls, et cetera. But task 2 for the WithersRavenel group would be reviewing current draft stormwater ordinances, because they want to, the mission of this plan would be to combine the plans we have now into one document. A document that's complementary of our current zoning code, so that they're working in conjunction when there's new development, redevelopment, or potential reasons for disturbing land in and around White Lake through project management, so that the zoning code again works hand in hand with the stormwater ordinance, and likewise the other way. But the key piece there is that it will be complementary, and I think that's critical for the success of the plan long term. And then task 3, to develop the stormwater ordinance. It is, as it sounds, draft and outline with different sections, 2 rounds of review and comment with the planning board, potentially a public engagement process as well. And this is done so, in my opinion, to get the planning board buy-in, because it is a critical piece of this to work through the planning board, again, to have consistency with the planning code and keep the jurisdiction of White Lake in the zoning services consistent. And task 4 under this project would be a presentation to the Board of Commissioners, following a presentation to the planning board that would seek for your approval, and then ultimately helping staff roll out this ordinance and implement this ordinance for long-term success. If there are any questions, Mayor, I'm happy to answer them. If not, staff would recommend that the board approve this. And I would just say on that note, the planning board reviewed this on November 20th and did unanimously recommend to the Board of Commissioners for approval.
Any questions for Sean regarding this? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the recommendation as presented.
So moved.
Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor, indicate by saying aye. Any opposition, like sign. Sean, if you will go forward with item F.
Item F is a letter of intent to purchase 2 new police trucks. This is a standard operating procedure now when it comes to purchasing vehicles on state contract. They're basically 2 years away from being 2 years away to be ready. And the ordering bank is open currently. So staff is asking that the board approve the letter of intent as a placeholder, really a vehicle as a means to purchase 2 new police trucks if approved during the budget process. There's no commitment here from the town that would obligate the town to purchase these. This would simply let the ordering facility, which I believe is Deacon Jones Ford in Clinton, they have the state contract right now. This would allow them to order those on our behalf, so that if they were approved during the budgetary process, we would have an order in the ordering bank for hopeful delivery sometime in 2026.
And by using their purchase contract, we can get that considerably cheaper than what we could do otherwise.
Yes, sir. The cost of the trucks are $49,520 a piece. If there are no questions, staff would ask that the board approve the letter of intent as presented.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Not all in favor, indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign.
Bruce says 4 cylinders, right? Yeah. 4 cylinders.
Item G is the budget retreat dates. I don't know if we need any action taken. Well, I reckon we'll have to set up our retreat date on whatever. We've got open Thursday, March the 27th as the date we're looking at on that. But there's a secondary date if March 27th produces a lot of conflicts. We could do it on Thursday, April the 3rd. y'all may be like me. I don't know too much about what I'm doing next week, much less in March, 1st of April. So I don't know of any problem I have with Thursday, March 27th at this time. Do any of you know of anything that you have with that? Well, what I'd like to do is go ahead, because I think the earlier the better, if we can set it up on that date. And then again, just keep in mind, we do have a secondary date that could be available. So as we get closer to that time, if we see a problem arises, you can let us know, and it is changeable. But at this time, I'd like to get a motion to approve the recommendation for setting Thursday, March 27, 2025 as our date for the annual budget retreat.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Item 3, before the departmental briefing and reports, any commissioners have any brief matters that don't require any action that need to be brought to the attention of the board?
The strategic plan. I remember that David Richardson gave us a homework assignment, and we're supposed to have that ready in January. Is that meeting set?
It's not been set yet, but I'm happy to reach out to him and check his calendar dates for January.
And you were supposed to compile our 10 top. So look at that and figure out what we can do with.
Yes, ma'am. I've worked on that list, and it's close to being ready. I can have that available before that meeting.
Our list, and then share that with you.
That may have been the case. I have a list too, if need be, but I'll check with David and send an email out to the board.
And also on trails, Uplift paid for me to go to the Trail Town Destination Workshop yesterday. And paid the $300 for the toolbox so we can give chosen create web page that's connected to ours that gives 7 local trails. And it would be in Al Gordon's city publication. We'll be working with Elizabeth.
And that would be on our website. Awesome.
Also, Red State Coalition has us on their website. So we can add their logo to our website.
Okay.
And Outdoor NC also. At the workshop yesterday.
I'll get this taken care of.
Any other commissioner matter?
That second is out there.
If not, under item 3A is departmental briefings and reports that we always present. If you'll note, item B, a little something was mentioned at the last meeting, but we hadn't actually received our report at that time, but our fire department has gone through their inspection, and I'm glad to report that no inspection issues were identified during their inspection on November 12th. And we expect to receive a department rating in the next 60 to 90 days. And we fully anticipate that will be a very good rating due to the fact that no inspection issues were identified as being any problem areas. And so congratulations to Dale and his folks on receiving such a good inspection. Item C is Sean, you may want to go over that. I know it's a hazard mitigation plan update for Bladen, Columbus, and Robinson, but you may want to give what information you have on that.
Sure, happy to. Joey Coleman with the county, Bladen County Emergency Services reached out to me and asked me to share this update with the board. And as you can see, this is a plan update public meeting. And I think the purpose of this meeting, as I understand it, is really to serve as a kickoff meeting and to solicit public input on formulating a plan for this region, Bladen, Columbus, and Robinson County. It is a virtual public hearing. I mean, it's not a public hearing, excuse me. It's a virtual public meeting taking place on Wednesday, December 11th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Thanks, sir. And item D, our annual town staff Christmas party. And you've got an invitation here in front of you. Will be Friday, December 20th at 12 noon. It will be held at the venue and it's open to all of our town staff. The municipal complex will be closing at 12 on that day, and we'll have on-call persons available in case of any emergencies that might arise. And I hope all of you are able to attend that. It gives us a good opportunity to have some fellowship with between the elected officials and staff, and we always look forward to that. Item E is the Christmas holiday municipal complex closure, and that will be Tuesday, the 24th through Thursday, the 26th, in observance of the Christmas holiday. Again, we'll have Public Works on-call person will be available during those times. And also we will be closed Wednesday, January 1st, 2025, in observance of the New Year's holiday with an on-call person available. All right, those are the items that we have on the agenda for tonight. At this time, we're at our open forum portion of the meeting. It's 3 minutes per citizen. Anyone who wishes to address the board is welcome to step forward at this time. Al, we'll recognize you.
I'd like to call Chief come forward and Officer Reyes come forward, please. I'm excited to be here. And the reason I asked these gentlemen to be here is I want to compliment them. I want to tell y'all what a great job they do. Now, Aaron does not know why he's here. He thought he's in trouble. And he has no idea. But let me tell you why I wanted him up here. My son, Michael, I love dearly. He's strong physically, mentally, spiritually. Got a great work ethic. He has been an entrepreneur all his life. The last several years, he's worked with the post office out of Leland. Leland is growing exponentially. And Michael, with his work ethic, every time there is some kind of controversy inside the post office or whatever, they turn and say, Michael, can you run this route? Run those 2 routes, and he'd do it. Well, because of that, the postmaster said he probably has the largest route in North Carolina. And his normal time working is about 12 hours. But he's been working 17 hours, for, I don't know, 15 days or so straight, no days off. And he's like everybody else. I mean, he just eat a sandwich in the car, but that has been his work ethic. Finally, several weeks ago, he just could not do it anymore. About midday, he's in Leland, he can't drive, he knows he's a danger. He simply takes the van back to the post office and leaves it, and gets in his car and leaves. Postmaster's trying to find him, won't answer any cell number, calls his wife can't reach him. I'm in Fayetteville doing a mediation. I get this call, your son is missing. That's all I know. I know the police have been notified down in Leland and Wilmington. I know nothing beyond that. Pick up my wife. We're heading down to Wilmington. That's all we know to do. My daughter somehow or another has figured out by looking at Michael's cell phone that he is maybe heading to the lake. So we divert and come to the lake. We get to the end of our street and there is a police car. I go in. Jenny and I rush in. I probably spoke to you. I'm not sure, but I go in not, we don't know what the space. We go in and Aaron's sitting in a rocking chair talking to my son. Everything is calm. And I may have said higher than said, I don't know. But of course, my wife and I go beyond him, and we get our son, we're hugging and crying. We're doing this for a little while, and Aaron just very quietly starts out. My wife goes out with him. We were very upset. Aaron spends some time outside of my wife, and she comes back in, calmed down. It's all the difference in the world. He had the professionalism, the know-how, the heart, the care to do this. Cannot thank you enough. So why did I bring the chief? Well, because I finally tracked down the chief and I said, I want to compliment you on one of your officers. And he said, I wish there'd be some public positive statement. We don't get a lot. I wish there were 150 people here because I would love to brag on people that do a good job. Realize anybody that has a department of business, a corporation, anything else, when you see good individuals, you know that the person at the top has done the job through the training, the encouragement, and developing that relationship and that morale, and that's what he's done. I did not intend to tell all this story to anybody, but there's nothing to be ashamed of. My son he just completely was worn out. It could have been a different situation. It was a bad situation that we anticipated, but I cannot tell you, it's just etched in my mind when I opened the door of our house, not knowing what was there, and Aaron was sitting in a rocking chair, calmly talking to my son. So I want to commend these guys to y'all. Aaron, thank you, man. Appreciate it. No, thank you. Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Alan. We appreciate it when folks recognize the people we have working here. I had the opportunity to work with Aaron some as an attorney while he was over in Elizabethtown working and always did an impressive job over there and was delighted when he came to work with us over here. And I think he certainly adds to the professionalism of our department, which is very high. And we appreciate it. We thank you for what you did, and Chief, y'all keep doing the good job you're doing. And again, thank you, Alan, for bringing that to our attention. Okay. I don't believe there's anybody else here to address us in open forum. So at this time, we do have a closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A5, and I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to that statute.
So moved.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
Nobody that smoke. Right, it's late.
7:40. You do what?
You burn
Yes.
All right, we have a motion to go out of closed session and into open session.
Yep.
And is there a second for that?
I moved it.
Uh, Any discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. I'd entertain a motion at this time as to how we pursue.
We need to, this need to be on the agenda. Next month meeting.
No, that's not required to be, no.
No.
Not coming out of closed session. We don't, but we often vote on things that we discuss in closed session. We are entitled to do that.
So I'd like to entertain a motion to vote for Whitley Ward as the town attorney.
There's a motion to accept Whitley Ward as town attorney. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor indicate by saying aye.
I abstain.
Yes, which is yes, right. Okay, any opposed?
No.
One opposed? That's 5 in favor, 1 against, so I will contact her on, or have Sean contact her on. Okay. Any other matters? If not, I entertain a motion to
What
adjourn.
about what's the latest in the water festival?
We had a meeting this past week. We're doing a big raffle for New Year's Eve. Terry could speak on it some too if she'd like, but we're selling tickets for $20 a ticket, just a fundraiser. We've got around roughly, we've got some outstanding fees, but we're starting ahead this year, roughly around $17,000 in the bank for the water festival, so should be in good shape. And we're planning a big meeting starting in January to mimic and duplicate a lot of the same things that we did this past year, including the ski show, making some adjustments to that, and all the normal parade things and vendors and things of that nature. So should be in good shape.
Any other matters we've got before a motion to adjourn? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion second, any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.